Ladies and gentlemen, now for a lot of established players, this month in Marvel Contest of Champions, just on its own, without even the expectation of Avengers Endgame, is just a straight up disappointment. You know, the rewards absolutely suck for the bonus events, and last on Save the Battle Realm, it's better now with the nerf, but it's still like, you know, half an hour's worth of content. It's not really exciting. The rewards aren't very spicy as well. Those 10k crystals are very, very disappointing. And then add on that, the previous month there were loads of bugs introduced, like the combat lag kind of being the biggest one for most people, that haven't really been fixed with this update and are still kind of plaguing people. And the fact that they decided to start Alliance War seasons again and they haven't updated the rewards in like a year, and then add that in with the bugs as well, and also all the new defenders, which people have had a lot more time to kind of stack and gear up now. It just makes for a bit of a combination of probably one of the worst months that we've ever had in terms of the actual game experience if you're an established player in Marvel Contest of Champions. But I kind of have the perspective, and I talked about this on the previous video, that this month, for whatever reason, they have completely, you know, disregarded endgame players and people that have been playing this for a fair bit of time to fully focus their resources on kitting it out for the newer player experience, adding in stuff like objectives, like Save the Battle Realm and Quest for the Stones are really, really good reward structure-wise for newer players as well, as I've kind of like seen on my free-to-play account. So for the new player perspective, that's really, really good. And to a certain extent, that does make a little bit of sense, because if we have a look at the download ranks on App Annie, and we're going to have a look at a lot of data today as well, there have just been a ridiculous increase in the amount of Marvel Contest of Champions downloads. Like if we have a look at the US games, like usually Marvel Contest of Champions are ranking anywhere between kind of 300 all the way up to 150 for the most part on average. You can see here there's a little bit of a spike up in March around the release of the Captain Marvel movie, but that wasn't, you know, the biggest spike in the world. And also this is a pretty like old game now, so the downloads aren't ever going to spike super high just because it's been out for 4 years and a lot of people already have it like downloaded on their phones somewhere. But we can see it as well with the release of Avengers Endgame. They've really shot up, kind of managed to maintain that top 75, which US games overall, that's still pretty damn good. But what makes Marvel Contest of Champions just such a ridiculous force of nature on the mobile gaming market is the amount this game makes from its endgame whales, man, and all sorts of people that just splash a ton of cash. And I think really in the last like few weeks, a lot of the discussion going around is like, because a lot of the game has been so neglected with the last update, is Marvel Contest of Champions doing all right? Are they going to be sustainable for the future? Are they about to, you know, cash out? Are they running into financial problems at all? So today we're going to have a bit of a look in depth on the grossing ranks of Marvel Contest of Champions and talk about the mobile gaming market, talk about numbers, do some other game comparisons with Future Fight and Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, two other games that are doing really, really well, and just go through all the stats, because, you know, as somebody that like does this full time, I'm always looking at this data, man, especially around the release of new movies, because like what this data tells me, download ranks, is that a lot of new players are downloading the game. So, you know, it's a good time to focus on stuff like making new player guides. They're going to be very useful to a lot of people entering Marvel Contest of Champions. But yeah, what we're going to be answering today is Marvel Contest of Champions in trouble? And the short answer to that is no, they are still making a ridiculous amount of money. But I'm just going to show you like how ridiculous some of this stuff is, and we've a lot to talk about today. So the grossing ranks, again, I'm going to remove US overall from these comparisons, and just to say, like, if you ever want to check out any of this information for any games, App Annie is the best website to do so. You can create a free account on it, have a look at rank history for like downloads, grossing ranks if you're curious about certain games. And there's one website that you shouldn't use. I'm just trying to find it here as an example. Oh yeah, Think Gaming. Think Gaming has a lot of like fake numbers in terms of the revenue and installs. Like, these numbers, they always stay the same. They're not actual information or actual data, so all of this stuff is wrong. It's made up. The rankings are correct, but the revenue and new installs, these numbers are completely like drawn from thin air. So Think Gaming, it's one of the first websites that comes up, but it's not a reliable source at all, man. I've monitored that so many times. It's just had like rubbish data, so it's definitely not a good one to look for. But App Annie is very, very reliable, used by a lot of people, and game developers and marketing teams in the industry as well. So yeah, if we have a look at the average grossing rank, again, there are kind of three different categories here. We've got US action games, US adventure games, and US games. But US games overall is probably the best one to look at. So you can see in the last 90 days here, and we're going to be operating off the last 90 days for today's video, the lowest Marvel Contest of Champions has got is number 51 in terms of daily grossing in US games. And for the most part, I would say MCOC tends to average, because sometimes it's a little bit above 10, sometimes it's in the kind of like, you know, late teens region, early 20s region there. But I would say it averages like the spot between, I would say about 15 and 20, but if it's having like a really good week, it could be in the top 10 for the majority of the week as well, especially around like really hype new champion releases. And I reckon like going into this weekend with the Col Obsidian crystals, man, people are going to go absolutely crazy for those, like all 3 days, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, of course, as well, for that like 72-hour period while those crystals are active. So it's probably going to be top 10 for all of those, man, because Col Obsidian looks absolutely nuts. But you can see that it's got a great rank, man. It's just doing so incredibly well, and it never really falls you know, for the majority of days below like 35. It's very rare actually that it does fall below 30, and if you think about some of the terrible deals that come up, like some people still buy them, man, still keep that chart pinging up and up and up. Now, two games that I want to compare this to, just so you guys have an idea of like the financial strength of Marvel Contest of Champions, are Marvel Future Fight and Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Both games have been going a very long time, like at least a few years each, and they're still doing like really well financially, and I'll show you some articles as well related to both games. But if we have a look for the grossing ranks of Marvel Future Fight on the App Store, you can see it's actually very rare, if we look day by day, that Marvel Future Fight even breaks it into the top 100 on US games overall. And that's pretty scary to think about, lads, because the very bottom day of Marvel Contest of Champions in the last 90 days is ranked 51. And obviously, as you do get higher and higher, the amount that they're making increases more and more as well in terms of the difference between ranks. So it's just absolutely crazy to keep that in mind. So Marvel Future Fight, it's got a booming community. It's still going very strong as well, but they don't make anywhere near the money that Marvel Contest of Champions make. However, for Marvel Future Fight, you can see that the release of Avengers Endgame has been absolutely phenomenal for their revenue, man. It's really kind of boosted them above that top 100 spot, and they're getting much better ranks. But even then, the absolute best rank in the last 90 days for Marvel Future Fight in US games has been 49, and that's just a little bit scary, man, when you compare it to Marvel Contest of Champions, because the absolute worst day for MCOC is pretty much Marvel Future Fight's best day. So that's just that's so crazy to think about. And the even scarier thing that we're going to talk about as well is when Kabam actually want to put out good offers, like how much money do they make in a day? And we've got some more information, which is just absolutely mad there. But also another game just to compare as well, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, another game going very strong. I'd say Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes financially is a little bit stronger than Marvel Future Fight. The majority of the time they're kind of averaging like in this 40 to 50 region in the US game chart, so MCOC is probably average about 15 to 20 there. For comparison, they have their good days, they have their bad days. Sometimes they can break into the top 10 if they have a really good offer, but breaking even into the top 20, man, is really difficult to do for the majority of mobile games out there. So yeah, just something to consider there for comparison's sake. And also, we have a bit of information on Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. So to the best of my knowledge, as it's gone on, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, the community, from what I can see on like other YouTube channels, has just grown and grown. So they're making more and more money over time. But during the second quarter of 2018, they made nearly 55 million in just 3 months. So that is just absolutely mad there. I would personally estimate that at this current point in time, Marvel Contest of Champions are making anywhere in the region of about 30 million to 50 million every single month. And I think it actually does have a bit of potential to be like even higher than that in certain months and certain times as well, which is just so crazy to think about. Like, it's just absolutely mad. But we're going to bombard you with more super fun stats as well. So yeah, just as a fun fact, in the very first 7 months of Marvel Contest of Champions, and this was a time in the mobile market where overall spending was much lower. And also we know that well, you may or may not know that as people get more and more attached to a game, they've played it longer, they're more willing to spend money. So yeah, it's just crazy. 100 million in the first 7 months, and that's, you know, back in like 2015 there. Also, as a fun fact, for Cyber Monday last year, Marvel Contest of Champions made 3.3 million in player spending alone on Cyber Monday, man, which is absolutely mad. And that kind of topped them by 21% for their record-breaking day of 2.75 million back on July 4th last year. So yeah, I don't know, man. I'm a little bit interested to see what they're going to hit this year as well on July 4th and also Cyber Monday. Obviously, those are very big days for Kabam in terms of their revenue and grossing there. So yeah, just some absolutely crazy stuff. Now, another fun fact is that a couple of years ago, Kabam was actually sold from its previous owner and CEO, Kevin Chow, for $800 million US. Now, I would probably bet my bottom dollar that in the 2 years that they've had Marvel Contest of Champions alone, again, this is not including any other games like Transformers. Transformers is nowhere near as profitable as MCOC anyway. But I reckon on Marvel Contest of Champions alone, they've probably already made that money back, or very close to. Profit City, man, I imagine they're having a proper great time now, so that Netmarble executive must certainly be patting himself on the back there. Also, just a random fact about the mobile market, and this is generally why Apple players always have a better experience, or more often than not will have a better experience with gaming than Android players, and that is because there are a lot more Android devices and a lot more downloads on Android devices, and that has been going up year on year, but the spending power is still predominantly with the Apple market. So people that generally have iPhones generally have a larger disposable income, which they're willing to spend on mobile games. So that's a huge generalization there, but it's a little bit crazy to think about, because only, you know, 25% of mobile downloads, or maybe even 20% nowadays, are from Apple devices, but they still make up, you know, a solid 60% of the spending. So still a little bit crazy to think about, but you know, when you think about both of the products, it generally makes a little bit of sense there. Also, the global games market, man, this is definitely, if you're like an OG gamer, I guess I'm not like the oldest gamer in the world, man, you know, I'm 24, but I've been around for a while. This is a graph or a graphic that was produced by Newzoo on the 2018 global games market, and it's just crazy. So the market overall is worth about 140 billion, and this is last year, so it will have grown since then. It's probably even more than that. It's probably around 150 now. But last year, mobile grew to have 51% of the global market, man. So mobile, tablet games, smartphone games are making more money than PC, browser, box games, and console combined, which is crazy to think about. Absolutely crazy. But when you also, you know, when you're deep in a game like Marvel Contest of Champions, you can kind of see why, because a lot of this is happening on a much wider scale as well, with all sorts of games out there. So yeah, just absolutely crazy to think about the amount of money there, but also even more of the mobile games market money is actually coming from the Asia Pacific area. Still a very limited amount does come from like North America, Latin America, and Europe, and the rest of the world. So yeah, it's crazy to think like you know, just the amount of power and the amount of spending coming from North America and also Asia specific areas as well. Just absolutely mad there. So what have we learned today, ladies and gentlemen? Well, we've learned the super fun fact of Kabam are still absolutely balling. They're making so much money, it's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I just hope in the future months that there's going to be some really good stuff. I think mid next month it's very likely that we're going to see the release of Act 6.2, and I think in all fairness, to play a little bit of devil's advocate, this month I would say 100% they have dropped the ball, but in the previous months we've had Variant 2, Act 6.1 as well, so it's been some good stuff for veteran players, but most people have tanked through it so incredibly quickly as well that there's just such a thirst for content out there, and there's been some great stuff this month for beginners. I would say beginners is definitely an area that they haven't dropped the ball on, but everywhere else, man, is a bit of a disappointment. But yeah, I'm just hoping for something good in the next like few weeks, like a celebrity challenge or some sort of movie related challenge or just anything, because it's like mid-month, man, and so many players. I saw a post on Reddit the other day like, I'm bored, and I felt that post as well. I was like, I want something new, I want a good challenge, because it's been really relatively established that in the last 6 months, every single Wednesday, or at least every 2 weeks, there'd be something a little bit new, a little bit spicy coming around, and it's just been so dry the last couple of weeks. So I hope there's going to be some really good stuff to maybe salvage the month, like a good challenge and a few more bonus events and some good compensation for, because they addressed the overtuned event, and they've addressed some Thanos bugs, and the compensation packages were alright for that, but what they haven't addressed is the combat lag and the terrible performance issues, and haven't given like a really nice like compensation, like, hey guys, we're really sorry that we actually broke the game for 2 months and you've had to put up with this stuff, and we're sorry that we started Alliance War seasons again when we probably shouldn't have. You know, there's just a lot that Kabam still need to do to kind of take a bit more responsibility and address the issues in their game, to give everybody a little bit more confidence moving forward, because I think this month really has been just disappointing for a lot of people that have really followed this game for a long time, and especially with the release of the biggest cinematic event in the history of ever. It just really feels like they've dropped the ball on it, because there's nothing more than I want as somebody that you know, makes videos about Marvel Contest of Champions, to be like, wow, this is the best game ever, I'm having so much fun, I'm having a great time, but I can't honestly be like that if the game's absolute shite. So I want some good content to play, I want a good challenge, but I just cannot defend like piss poor events or like terrible rewards at all. It's like, you can do better, Kabam, you can do better, you've got the bankroll for it, like, sort it out, lads, and hopefully we can have a good next month. Like, what is it, Namor and the Invisible Woman are rumored by Otrix to be in the game files coming next month, and then we've got the Spider-Man Far From Home event, we got Mysterio, some kind of stuff leading up to the end of Act 6 as well later this year, you know, Mr. Fantastic, Silver Surfer, so there's so much potential still for Marvel Contest of Champions in this game to develop even further in the future. But yeah, I don't want to see a repeat of this month ever again. So yeah, I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, it is what it is at the end of the day, but let me know what you think in the comment section below. How are Kabam doing in your opinion, and what could they be doing better? Let me know. Aside from that, thank you very much for watching. Smash that like button if you did enjoy today's video. Take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.